Is the screen visible? Can we just see a few thumbs up? Cool. So I'm assuming the screen is visible as well. So my name is Abhishek and I'm a software developer at Google. I work in the search platform team. Today, I thank Interview Help to bring me here, and I would like to discuss a few pointers on how not to screw an interview based on my experiences of giving interviews for all the big tech out there. So just for reference, can you just in the chat box like this? I'm planning this to be an interactive session. So can you just mention the number of years you have worked, you are working in the industry? Like how many years of experience do you have? That will give me some idea about the cohort. Great. Okay. So basically, this particular session will be more focused on the data structures part of the interview, and there'll be follow-up session next week, which will be more focused towards the system design round and the behavioral interviews. So I'll just start quickly. So how I'm going to take the sessions basically for another half hour or to 40 minutes. I'll just share some pointers and then I'll just open the forum for discussion. Any questions which you have in mind, you can ask. So does that sound okay? Cool. So we'll start with how to prepare for the data structures round. So while preparing for data structure, what I normally advise people is to document everything. We want this to be a one-time investment. So let's say you are working at company A and you decide to shift and switch gears to company B. You'll have to spend some time doing lead code, practicing data structures, understand the concepts, and solve a good number of questions. So whatever you do, make sure that you document everything. So let's say you are solving a question on binary tree. So the thought process behind that, the concept which went into the question, the data structure used, the trade-off analysis which happened, all the different approaches for that particular question needs to be documented. Reason being, let's say you prepared all those topics while your first switch, and then you decide to switch from company B to C, then revising everything is actually a huge task. So this notes will be of immense help there. So make detailed notes. Multiple approaches to a particular question needs to be written. So basically, this will open your thought process in an actual interview. Again, for each approach, you need to visually explain the concept and the time complexity and space complexity of the particular algorithm. That being said, so basically you can prefer lead code or in India, Geeks for Geeks is very popular. Also, there's we are opening interview help portal for the same, so you can practice the lead questions asked in these interviews from any of the three. So how we are going to practice the question is that first step would be to know the ABC of data structure. So let's say I'm working with stats. So first I would want to know how push works, how pop works, very basic nitty-gritties about the data structure. Let's say if we are talking about priority queues, we want to know how what's the time complexity of insertion, deletion, how an element is inserted into the heap, stuff like that. Once we are very clear about how the data structure is implemented, we can expand our knowledge and use libraries. So let's say first you decide to implement a stack using an array. Once you know how a stack can be implemented using an array or a linked list, then what you can do is that you can directly use the libraries associated with stack, and then think of the algorithm which that data structure support. So basically, if you know about binary search tree, the second step would be to know how to traverse a BST, how to find an element, how to update the index of the binary search tree, things like that. Let's say for array, that would be like once you know how an array works, the step two would be to understand merge sort, binary search, and then step three would be to solve a lot of applications of them. So application can be anything. So for stack, that can be uh, a stock span problem. Like this is a common problem for stack. For binary search, there's a problem called aggressive cows. So these are very famous textbook questions. So once you know the basic of the data structure, once you have solved a few questions around them, solve a lot of applications. So basically, step three is what all these major big tech companies ask. So they are very much concerned on how you apply that basic knowledge. So question will never be around that implement a stack. Question will be around how you use data structures to solve a particular problem. So question will be very open-ended. That let's say uh, you are asked to design the data structure for a phone book. So that you know that a book is always in sorting, like it's always sorted in alphabetical order. So you know that the phone book should support binary search. So this is the idea behind those problems. So you should be very thorough with that application, and that will only come when your step one and step two is very clear. So far so good. Like you guys are with me. Cool. So the second question which I get asked a lot is that how many questions will be sufficient? So some crack companies like Google within like 100 lead code questions. Some take around 1500. So the number vary a lot depending upon like when a recruiter approaches you. So I think the best answer would be that as many as you can. So given the time you have with your when like time which you have for the given interview, let's say a recruiter says that you have to give an interview by the next month. So within that 1 month, how many questions you can solve, that's up to you. Also, like try to precondition this practice much before that. So now I'll just start upon the few pointers like which is more relevant to the slide, which slide topic. So how not to screw an interview. So like while taking interviews at Google or in general, I've seen that a candidate is completely blocked on a particular question and they don't ask for any help from the interviewer. So be assured that let's say if you're stuck at some particular point, the interviewers are always ready to help you. The trade-off can be that let's say you are applying for a L6 role, a staff engineer role, like that may be down level to L5 role. So that can happen, but that is still better than not solving the question at all. So let's say if a dynamic programming question comes, like which is generally weak for most of us, so it's always advisable to ask for some hints that, hey, I'm stuck at this point. Can you help me out? So this always helps. So we'll try to like focus on those. So basically ask for hints that, okay, I only know about the brute force, but I don't know about the optimized way to solve this particular problem. After the interview, ask questions about the company. So basically this will actually reflect your interest towards the company. Uh, so ask how the culture in the company is, how the testing happens, what's the tech stack which upon which that particular team works upon. So all this will actually like show some positive traits about you that you are like really interested about working in that company. After the first recruiter call, take a week time at least to prepare. So try to delay the interview as much as you can. uh, give your give yourself the sufficient amount of time to prepare. We don't want to delay it a lot, like let's say 2 3 months, but it's always advisable to like take a week or two to have some basic preparation, revise your material, revise the notes. So as soon as a question is asked to you, again, like the most common mistake which I see is that people start like, okay, if I ask you, I a sorted array is given to you, sorted integer array. Uh, how will you search for an element? So you know, since it's sorted, it's very easy to apply binary search. Then you like immediately jump into conclusion and try to solve the question. But again, like the question is like left open ended, so that you can ask for the trade-offs, that what's the capacity of that array, what are the constraints over that problem, are there negative integers in that array, so things like that. So basically you need to ask, you know, to discuss the caveats, you need to discuss the approaches. So always start with the brute force approach. That okay, if an array is given, I have a brute force approach which will take a linear time complexity, but I also have a better approach which is using binary search, which will take me log of n. So discuss these approaches. This will actually show your technical expertise for that particular problem, and will actually give some good signals about your decision making. Again, to solidify your understanding, take a few test cases in the beginning. This will also help you to verify your solution at the end. Again, very, very common mistake is this, that given a question, you will assume something, you will try to solve the whole question around that assumption. And at the very end of the interview, this is seen that the question which the interviewer intended to ask was completely different from what you solved. Happened with me like multiple times. Given after COVID, like since most of the interviews are happening online, misinterpreting an interview is very easy these days. Since like virtual on a virtual setup, this gets a little complicated. So what you do is, as soon as you see a question, take out a few good sample cases and just ask your interviewer that okay, hey, this this what you intended? So like try a few cases, try out of solving that manually and show the interviewer that okay, the answer to this seems to be this. Is my understanding clear? Am I misinterpreting something? Once the interviewer gives you a like go ahead that okay, this is correct, then you can discuss about the approaches which I just mentioned earlier. One, like also like since also if you have like 2 3 cases ready for you, what will happen is that once you have solved finishing your algorithm, once you have done with the problem statement, this will act as a verification step as well. So basically the steps, the test cases which you've taken in the beginning, you can directly feed it into your algorithm and see like whether that worked or not. Cool. So this is again very, very important. So I would advise everyone to like take notes of this. Also, we'll be sending this recording as well. So there are points revolving around communication in all the big techs. So by being communicative, what I mean is that solving a problem and making the interviewer understand that you actually know the this problem, you have thought about the nitty gritty details, you know the trade-offs associated with that problem, is actually a different ball game. So a very basic question is reverse a linked list. So for reversing a linked list, I think like most of us can code that here, but I've fallen into this particular pitfall that if you try to explain how to reverse a linked list, that is very difficult given like you do this in an online setup, because the pointer will change, current is equal to current dot next, next is equal to previous. So all those things which mostly happens in recursion, this like becomes a lot difficult to dry run or explain it. on a Google Doc or a notepad. So I always recommend that while you are practicing over lead code before your interview, make sure that you are talking out loud. You are about you keep blabbering all the things which is coming to your head, because interviewers like us, what they look in you is that your how your thought process is revolving around a particular problem. Right or wrong is like a matter of concern at a later stage, but we want to know that how you are thinking for that particular problem. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, good till now. Very, very important point here. Code without the trade-off analysis justification is trash. So let's say you have solved a question the fastest in the fastest timeline, but somehow you are not able to justify what's the big O of that problem is, what the space complexity associated with that problem is, what the time complexity for that problem. So this simply shows that you have somehow crammed that particular solution, and like you have not like imbibed that solution to the core. You don't know how the data structure works internally, and all of this gives a very bad impression. So basically, anything which you do as a software developer needs to be tracked, needs to be like have needs to be having some kind of metric. Same thing happens in a data structure around as well. So you need to be able to justify that what's the complexity associated with the solution is. Even if you're solving the question multiple ways, always problem statement, solution, time complexity, space complexity, and like if time permits, write a few comments also. So this is the timeline which I advise mostly to folks who have not solved much questions. So in the month one, so basically like let's say you start preparing, start with basics of space and time complexity analysis, how to like uh, figure out what's the space and time complexity of a solution is. You want to start very early on that, is that you know what a big O notation is, what's the average case, what's the best case scenario for a particular solution is. When you start, this won't be very easy to figure out. But space and time complexity, when you start using that with array, binary search, graph, tree, everything, that expertise will come slowly. So let's say by the time you finish till tries, you have to analyze the space and time complexity for each and every topic mentioned here. So like by the time you reach to the end of month 6, you will be an expert. So we always recommend to start with space and time complexity. Again, like when there's algorithm with recursions, there's an internal memory stack also. So we want to include that also in the discussion, so that again that illustrates your expertise, that you know how the function calls work internally, how the variables change in recursion, how the tree structure looks in an internal method calls for recursion. Then we want to shift focus to array. When I say array, I again mean, you know, the search algorithm and the sorting algorithms, some basic dynamic programming as well associated with the array. So array, binary search, sorting algorithms are covered here. When you say binary search, there is like some problems like how to find a particular element in an array. In if the array is in like rotated somehow. So this is one question. There's some. I'll just mention it here. So there's painter partition problem, and there is aggressive cows. So these problems are basically ones which are textbook example of binary search, but are non-intuitive if you look at them. So if you search painter partition problem, you will see that like how does binary search get involved into that? Like won't make any sense. But as soon as you see the solution, and as soon as you see the explanation revolving around that particular problem, suddenly you will like gain a new tool inside your head on how to like look at a problem with a different angle, that something so different can be solved in a such a odd way. And again, like binary search is the next biggest miracle which we have. So log and time complexity is like one of the best time complexity which we have. So again, sorting algorithm, again, merge, how merge sort behaves, how quicksort is like the best algorithm. So stuff like that you'll have to understand. Again, linked list. So all the problems revolving around linked list, stacks, queues, heap. So month four will be focused around tree, graph. So graph also the breadth first search part of it. Then we can come to graph DFS, so depth first search algorithms. And then like since dynamic programming is a like bit of haunting topic, we just split that into two sections. And like last, you can solve a few questions on tries. So basically how the auto completion works and all that is implemented using tries. So generally it takes 6 months for anyone to prepare. If you are at a stable job, you can keep do this one-time investment. Uh, Practice DSA for 6 months so that anytime you need to switch a job, you can easily do that. So any question on this particular table, or we can, or I can take the next slide. Links, you can simply use lead code, Muhammad. Like there's no particular link associated with this. Uh, and if you are concerned about the slide, we'll be sharing the recording with you. One question which I get is, should I join a startup or should I join a like large big company? Again, startups pay you a lot. Like if we consider the ecosystem in India, startups pay you more than like what Google pays, so sometimes that's the case. But the thing is that at a startup you are expected to work a lot compared to Google or companies like Google. uh, the expectation from you will be a lot more. But again, that being said, you'll learn a lot. You'll learn how to prevent things from falling apart every now and then. You'll learn, like you'll have a lot more ownership. Your approvals will be very fast. uh, there'll be a lot more hands-on gear kind of scenario now and then. And like the thing with large companies is that if you want some stability in your life, that okay, you want to take the learning a little slower, on the slower side, then big techs like Google, Meta are for you. Again, like there will be ownership there also, but like let's say to roll out a feature, if a startup takes 1 day or 1 week, a big company like Google will take around 6 months. So again, the speed is hindered there. So I always advise like spend a few years in working in a startup so you know how the tech uh, moves very very fast in those companies. And also companies like Google, Apple, everything like started as a startup in a garage, right? The closing statement for this particular slide would be that how you can deal with rejections, that uh, vent it out. It's completely okay. So most of the time, what happens is that even if you have, let's say, solved around 500 lead code questions, uh, you're supposed to like take part in 5 or 6 interview rounds, and like being your best, giving your best performance in all the 5 6 rounds is actually difficult. And like more than that, it's more of a function of luck. So you give your best, you try to solve as many questions as you can. And like if let's say you get rejected, it's perfectly fine. Like there's plenty of fish in the pond, right? Make sure that, let's say you are not able to solve a particular question in a particular interview, make sure that next time that should not happen. You should always, like, again, let's say you are not able to solve a question, note that down in your notebook and try to solve again. Write down all the trade-offs, nuances for that. So, like, I'll tell you from my experience. So, there's a particular question regarding permutation and combination, which I was asked in a Microsoft interview. I took that lightly, and again, like, when that same question was asked me in Amazon interview, that really broke my heart. If I, like, would have somehow practiced that earlier, I could have cracked that as well. So make sure that, let's say you're not able to solve a particular question in a particular interview, make sure that you note that down and you understand the solution regarding that. Don't repeat the same mistakes. So that will be a blunder. So cool. I think we're halfway through the session. I'll just open the forum for the questions. You can just raise hand or write the questions in the chat box. I'll be happy to take them. I think, like, this is the best time you can uh, take advantage of this. Any resource you recommend for learning DSA? So yeah, Tejvi. So basically, we at Interview Help, like, provide you with mentorship programs. So basically, you'll be working closely with software developers who are working at Meta, Google, and stuff. Uh, Again, big companies as per you. You can, like, decide and select whose guidance you want. So they can actually, like, tailor the course as per you, how you can, like, what's your current level is, and, like, what is needed to be done. So they can tailor this course for you. Again, alternatively, what you can do is that, like, lead code is there. You can use that. Plenty of resources, like, outside is also there. So let's say lead code is good for practicing questions. Again, to learn the data structures, I would recommend you can watch YouTube tutorials. So let's say you are practicing stack. So if you are practicing stack, the thing is you will have to know some basic fundamentals regarding push and pop, how a stack is implemented in array or a linked list. So all those you can actually just watch YouTube tutorials. Does that answer your question, Tejbir? Thank you, Michael. So I'll be honest with you. So basically, like, while I was giving my interviews at Google, like, I didn't have any chance to interact with any Googler. So if I'm here, I would just
Wait,
encourage
cool.
you to, like, feel
Yeah,
free
let's
to ask
go.
me as many questions as you want. You don't want to, like, so basically, since you are investing your time with me here, I don't want any of the questions revolving around data structures to be unanswered here, or any doubts in your mind. How much time we should invest daily in hours? So while I was preparing, so, like, with my full-time job, I used to dedicate 4 hours a day. Um, like, because I had that much time with me. You can, like, so basically for me it was 4 hours a day for the weekdays, and, like, 5 or 6 hours on the weekend for a duration of 6 months. Once that 6 months are over, you just need to revise the concepts. Okay, how do you keep motivated and not too disheartened after every bad interview? So rather, that's a deep question. I'll tell you how I used to manage this. So let's say I gave an interview for Atlassian, a very big tech company out there. So let's say I did well in the like 3 rounds out of 4 rounds, and somehow I screwed the fourth round, and now I know that I won't be selected. Like you, somehow you understand that whether your interview went good or not. Most of the time, you always have the answer for that. So deep down inside, you know that you won't be able, like you won't be selected. So what I used to do was that I would simply like log off early, and like that particular day, no more lead code, no nothing. I will just maybe watch a couple of episodes of Friends, or maybe go out and have something nice. So let's say if you're having like one of those bad days, it's better to like take some time off and like give your mental health a rest, give your mental health some space which it requires. And also like remember that interviews are actually like the whole process is broken. It's like revolves more around rejecting a candidate than selecting them. So it's again, it's not always your fault. So just trust the process, keep solving as many questions as you can. And if like let's say someday you don't crack an interview, it's perfectly fine. You like will try for another company. That's how you deal with that. Apart from DS and Algo, what else we should really learn? So yeah, let's say you're applying for Muhammad. Like, what's your years of experience? Of based on that, I'll tell you. Cool. So basically, if you are at 8 years of experience, system design rounds are fairly common. And let's say you're a front end engineer, you'll be asked questions, domain specific questions regarding uh, front end technologies. Maybe you would be asked to implement something in some demo or so. So system design is one of the process which happens. Uh, Creating a demo of some front end part is also something which we see. Startups have machine coding round, which basically is that they will give you a few requirements, 5 6 requirements, and you'll have to code that solution within 2 to 3 hours. Some companies also conduct take home assignments. They will give you a problem statement, and you will come back with a website which will like satisfy all those needs, and you will discuss the solution with an engineering manager who is recruiting from the other side, and you will discuss like how you implemented that solution. So all those are possible cases. Again, I'll take a session maybe like 2 weeks from now, which will be more focused on behavioral round, because uh, all the big companies have some dedicated parameters on the behavioral round as well. So Google have the Googleness round, and Amazon have leadership principles, which it checks for each and every employee they decide to interview. So, like in the next session, which I'll take, I'll be discussing on the system design, and which the system design will cover the LLD, the low level design, and the high level design round, and also the behavioral rounds. Thank you, Mohammed. Any other questions? Lal, Radha, Tejbir. Again, are you guys applying for any company anytime soon, or uh, How's the thing? So basically, are you applying for any companies? Are you giving interviews? Is like, are there interviews lined up for you? Also, was curious. So basically, are you guys all from India or from US? Like, uh,